Welcome to the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Today, my guest is John Oberg. John is an animal advocate and social media influencer dedicated to making the world a kinder place for animals by utilizing the power of social media. John has over a decade of experience in grassroots outreach, nonprofit leadership, and social media consulting. Stick around. I want to introduce him to you. Hi, John. How are you?
Hey, doing well, Nancy. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, here in Albuquerque this morning was 23 degrees. What's the temperature out in Virginia right now?
Wow. It's in the, I would say probably in the upper 40s. So
you're much warmer than I am.
yes. Wow. Yeah, that's quite a difference. And it's so funny because many people think of New Mexico as being very desert-like and probably just think of it as hot, but I've spent some time there and I know that, that high desert can get quite cold. So sending some warmth from my side of the country to yours.
So let's start with your journey into veganism. Tell us about that.
Sure. So I went vegan in 2009, so about 13 years ago now. And what led me to this decision was I always had a love and compassion for animals. My mom really instilled a sense of compassion for animals in me. And I always did what I could to help them. But it took me a long time to make the connection between the animals I loved and the animals that were on my plate and to realize that they were one and the same. So what ended up happening was I was basically confronted with the idea that if I loved animals and I wanted to fight for animals and be an activist for animals, then it really makes sense to not eat animals. And I hadn't yet made that connection, but when I finally did, I was like, that's a good point. And so I went vegetarian on principle. I didn't know anything about factory farming. I didn't know anything about how egg-laying hens or dairy cows were treated, but I thought, you know what, if I love animals, I shouldn't eat them. And I didn't want to go vegan, but I wanted to kind of ease myself into it. And about 10 months into being vegetarian, I watched a film called Earthlings. And this film made me realize that, wow, animals don't just, live good lives. Farm animals don't live good lives with one bad day when they're sent to slaughter. They're living in misery and suffering basically every day, every hour of every day of their lives. And on top of this, it isn't just animals who are raised for meat. It's also egg-laying hens, dairy cows, and other animals who are raised for the products that they can produce for humans. And so I made the decision to go vegan, and then I made the decision to get active and become an activist right at the same time.
That's awesome. And one thing that you said, because I went vegetarian first as well, and my friend came and I was so proud to tell him I'm vegetarian because he was vegan, and he goes, well, that's better. And I was like, I always tell that story because I didn't make the connection because you thought, I'm not eating animal flesh, so I'm doing good. But what we forget is that the cows in the dairy industry might even have it worse because they're confined and they're in a situation where daily they're, like you said, suffering and tortured and have to do this for many years until they no longer can produce enough milk for that farmer or rancher, and then they slaughter them.
Well, I do encourage individuals to, go vegetarian as a means to, move along the spectrum. And I think that I view that as much better. So, your friend said that, it's better. And yeah, it's not perfect, but it is better. And the animals that suffer the worst from our food choices really are chickens and fish. And that's primarily because of the size of them and therefore how many we consume on an annual basis. So while we may only harm a fraction of a dairy cow or a fraction of a cow or even a fraction of a pig in a given year, you're likely sentencing dozens or even hundreds of fish and chickens to their death in a given year. And so I really encourage people to, as they move along that spectrum, to at least consider giving up chicken and fish, which sometimes can be a challenge because a lot of people think that giving up red meat is the best thing that they can do right off the bat. But really, it's giving up chickens and fish. And so it's really important for us as activists to remember that too, to encourage people to, really consider not just veganism, meat eating versus veganism, but also thinking about how all the things along that spectrum can make a difference as well.
Very good point. Very good point. And now recently you talked at the at Animal Vegan Advocacy in Washington. Tell me about that experience and how did it feel to be amongst other speakers who are advocating just like you are?
It was a fantastic event. So the Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit, which is put on by ProVeg, this was it was the inaugural event. It'll be an annual event now, switching between DC and LA every year. So next July, it'll be in DC. So this October, it was in DC, and I spoke there to many other animal advocates about the power of using social media to help animals. It was such a wonderful time because, it's pretty rare that you can get in the same room as dozens or hundreds of other people who think like you and are like-minded. And, even though pretty much everybody loves animals, there aren't that many of us out there working for them many hours in a given week. And we are some of the few. And so getting to spend some time with them and with other fantastic speakers was a real joy. And I highly recommend going to the AVA Summit next year in every opportunity that you can.
Awesome. I wanted to be there this year, but I just couldn't make it work. Hopefully
next year it's in Los Angeles. So, that's a lot closer to Albuquerque than Washington, D.C. was.
Absolutely. Now you are a social media guru, kind of, for the animals. Let's talk about your consulting business and what you do and how you help with social media, or educating us how to use social media more effectively.
Absolutely. So about a decade ago, I realized the power of using social media to help animals. So for a long time, my main form of advocacy was grassroots, person-to-person outreach on the streets. And whether it was leafletting, doing protests, or something else. And I really found this to be effective. And I still do think that's a form of effective activism, especially leafletting. But I found that focusing on social media really could amplify my message in a way that no street activism really could. And so I started focusing on using the social media platforms that are popular to amplify a message for animals. And so I now spend most of my days getting pro-animal content to go viral on social media. So lots of likes, comments, shares, views of pro-animal content. This is often showing a lighter side of farm animals to get people to kind of think about how these animals are just like the cats and dogs who we love, or it's underground or undercover footage of how animals are being treated behind the closed doors of factory farms and slaughterhouses, and to get people to realize how their food choices make an impact on these animals, and to encourage people to eat more vegan. And so the last 4 years, I've been an independent animal advocate fueled solely by the donations of amazing individuals who want to support my work. And in that time, something I've done is done some social media consulting for animal rights organizations, for individual animal advocates, to help them be the best advocates that they can be on social media, to really help them achieve their goals of creating a kinder world for animals. And in that time, actually, the last year and a half, I've developed 3 online courses with the online education platform Advocacy Collaborative, in which these 3 courses are tailored specifically for animal advocates who use social media. And so I've really, over the last decade, come to the firm belief that social media is the new frontier for animal rights, and it's something that every one of us should be advocating for.
I totally am on board with that, because that's what I keep mentioning to individuals when I meet, because some people say, oh, I don't like social media. Oh, social media is this and that. And if it wasn't for social media, veganism would not have the foot that it has right now, the footing that it has right now, because we are able to have that more accessible and not so guarded of what we can see or what we can say with regards to regular media like the TV, the radio, and things like that, which are mainly supported by flesh-eating, what I like to call flesh-eating organizations, you know, the animal agriculture, the dairy industry and things like that, big pharma, the government. And so, you know, what they want us to see is streamlined, I believe. And now we have the power because of social media to have people like yourself, myself, and other people who can get on social media and kind of share information and things of that nature.
Yeah, social media really opens up these doors that we've never had before, where we can reach anybody around the globe in an instant. It's truly miraculous. And I think that if you were to tell someone this concept 100 years ago, they wouldn't believe you. That they wouldn't believe that you can reach somebody in Mongolia like that. You know, that somebody in in South Africa could see your post within a second of you posting it. You know, it's really mind-boggling in a way that we can have such global reach. And it's really beautiful because I do firmly believe that most people love animals and most people are open to the idea of veganism. Of course, they understand the why and the how and believe that that's possible, which of course you and I know that it is very possible. And I think that social media is a really great way to make that happen.
And also, can you talk a little bit about the importance of sharing information on social media, not just posting, but sharing not just your own content, but other content, because this is how I believe we educate and inspire other individuals as well.
Yes, sharing content on social media is vital, especially, from, most of the animal footage that I post isn't footage I necessarily took myself, but it's footage that I view as being pro-animal, making a difference for animals, getting people to think differently, and getting more people to see that content makes a difference for animals, and we shouldn't forget that. And so it's really, really important to amplify this pro-animal content. And you don't necessarily have to go out there and conduct undercover investigations yourself. You don't necessarily have to go out there and do, go and try and get some cute footage of farm animals. You don't need to go, become a graphic designer and create memes and graphics. There's a plethora of great content already out there. And if you can help amplify that content, you can make a difference for animals.
So that's another way of advocacy for people who want to help the cause of veganism, is to share, like, and things like that, support it.
Yes, engaging with other posts, and especially advocates and organizations who you have found and you respect, engage with them on social media. So like their tweets, share their Facebook posts, comment on their Instagram posts, and so on, because this is going to help these positions in the algorithm as well. So what you will be doing is you'll be getting that content to be seen by more people, because you're going to be telling these social media platforms that, hey, this is important content that people need to see.
Well, thank you so much, John, for being on the Vegan Pulse. Just give us your website and any last words you want to tell our viewers.
Absolutely. Should anybody want to stay in contact with me, they can contact me through my website, johnoberg.org. They can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at John Oberg. On Facebook, it's at John Oberg Official. And then if anybody wants to sign up for any of my online courses on social media, that would be fantastic. You can find those at advocacycollab.com. There's also a page on my website dedicated to that.
Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again for being on the Vegan Pulse. Bye-bye.
Bye, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on another Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Remember, check out our Facebook page and like us. Check out our website and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.